Okay, so I think we can get started. So this is the community meeting, this is an annual event held at the SIGCOMM conference every year where we discuss SIG issues, and we're going to start off. The agenda today is we're going to spend 30 minutes talking about SIG business, and then most of the time at the end is going to be a panel discussion where we're going to have a bunch of really intelligent people up here talking about reviewing practices, and as a community discussion we need you to kind of approach the microphones and give us your input. So okay, so I'm going to start off talking about our diversity and inclusion updates. So diversity and inclusion is a really critical founding principle of the SIG. The SIG was, in fact, the motivation behind the SIG is that we, science needs more than just publishing papers. Science is about, also we get a lot from values, and we get a lot from shared community that helps science. And so building our community is really a foundational part of our SIG. Unfortunately, diversity and inclusion is, it's under attack today, and we're facing all sorts of challenges. The National Science Foundation is facing severe budget cuts, and we notice this. And people come to us and they say, hey, we don't feel comfortable working on these issues, or it's hard to put these sorts of things on our resume today, or it's hard. I go to my work, it's hard to get hours that I can devote to these sorts of activities. So. And that's a really big problem because we rely on volunteers to make these changes happen. You can't just throw money at fixing these problems. You need somebody to stand up and really push on fixing these issues. And so that's a change. We go to, there's a day we could go to companies and say, hey, we need funding for Into Women. And that's getting harder to do. Companies, not all companies, some companies are shifting priorities internally. And so we're seeing decreases in resources, and we have a buffer, but that buffer can, run out. And so, so we're facing a day of decreased resources for diversity and inclusion, and that's causing challenges. At the same time, we need to do more. I mean, you look around, you don't see as many, certain assistant professors aren't able to come. People are losing funding. Our travel grant programs were extremely impacted this year. And so these are, we have to do more. We really need to do more, but we have less to do it with today. And so that's a problem. And we don't know how to solve that problem. But we have some ideas. We're trying to make progress on this. So here's what we're trying to do. So we're trying to identify the pillars, the things that we've been doing that really seem to be producing some measurable outcomes. Things like Into Women in the TMA PhD school. These are initiatives that really do seem to work and provide benefits. There's even events like CommsNet and APNet, or geodiversity initiatives that have really seemed to taken off and even become self-sustaining. So we want to keep supporting these important initiatives. The second thing we plan to do is to build strategic partnerships. So we can collaborate with industry and other groups that share values and goals with us. And there's also institutions that don't, on paper share goals with us, but we can still work together with them in certain ways and form joint initiatives still. And so we need to be more flexible in doing that. The third thing we want to do is, there's all this interest in change and improving our conferences and things like that. We want to bring that change to innovate new programs for diversity. So we want to get more creative, and we could use your help with this. If you have ideas for improving diversity and initiatives in that space, it's really helpful if you can come talk to us. So speaking of pillars, the SIG launched last year an ambassador program. And the idea here was to do a matchmaking process where we identify groups of need in our community, and we identify passionate people who are willing to stand up and champion the goals of those groups. And so we went out and researched, and we found people, and I'll tell you about them on the next slide. But this seems to be something that works. And so this year we're expanding the program, and we're looking for a third ambassador. And we've identified two key areas of need that we want to really focus on over the next year. The first is supporting the continent of Africa, extending our geodiversity initiatives into that area. And the second area is supporting women in computing. We feel that these are two areas very much in need, but we also have a belief that these are two areas where we can very substantially make progress and improve things as well. And so we would like to request that if you are somebody who's passionate and willing to help us in these areas, that you please contact us and let us know and enter this role. But I will tell you about our two ambassadors who have joined us and done very great work. First, there's Professor Kanchana Kanchanaset from Thailand. She's been amazing. She's launched our Southeast Asia remote pod program. Our activities are being broadcast to countries, Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines, Malaysia, and so on. And she's led initiatives for travel grants. We'll tell you more about it a little bit later. In regional events such as the AIMTech conference, which has really taken off. It used to be, very small, and now it's over 60 attendees. And we thank her for not only running these initiatives, but she's so amazing at documenting and figuring out all the things that can go wrong and letting us know about them and really refining it into a process that's self-sustaining and replicable. And we hope to bring this to Africa and other continents later. So we're very thankful to her. Our other ambassador is Professor Dan Li from Tsinghua University. A lot of people don't know this, but in China, there's this really massive and successful networking group. I mean, we all know that. They're amazing. But one thing a lot of people don't know is that they run their own conferences, and they have their own kind of communication pipelines and their own events, and they even have their own SIGCOMM'. It's called SIGCOMM'. They don't interact with us. And so it's almost like kind of a bubble over there, and there's people that go back and forth. But we thought this was not so good for the community, and so Dan's been really amazing at. He's gotten us audience with top leadership and CCF, and he's gotten ChinaNet, which is their major conference. It's bigger than SIGCOMM', actually, over 1,000 attendees every year, to open up, and now they have English-speaking tracks, and it's open, and they're launching diversity and inclusion initiatives for the Southeast Asia region, and this might be kind of like a hub for that. So we're very thankful for him, too, for his efforts as well. The next announcement is we're very sorry to say that Ahmed El-Mokashfi, our Director for Diversity and Inclusion, is not able to continue. His job is not able to let him take the hours to work on this anymore. But the good news is we have this position opening up. We're seeking a new director for diversity and inclusion, and this is a time where there's a time of change and a time of need, and sometimes there's positions that open up where you can really have a lot of impact. And I personally believe that this is one of those times where if you're interested in pursuing a position where you can really help a lot of people and touch people's lives very directly, I think this is a moment where there's a position where you can do that. And we really need your help. We really need somebody who can come in and has thoughts and vision and can help us lead us in a positive direction with this. So if you're willing to apply, the nomination process is very simple. You can just send an email to that email address or contact anybody on the executive committee, and we'll discuss and take it from there. Okay, so next, if Sucha could approach the stage if he's here. Yeah, hey, come on up. So we're going to have a little overview of the Southeast Asia pods. You might not know this, but we're broadcasting the contents of SIGCOMM' to these pods. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Matt. So I am Sucha Supitiapornpong from Vistech, Thailand. So I am honored to be here to talk about the initiative that we do in Southeast Asia. So let me give you some background, what is happening in Southeast Asia, or maybe, for example, in Thailand, about the research in computer networking. So strong candidates or strong students, they usually go abroad, right? So once they go to the US or to Europe, they know about SIGCOMM'. They know about how tough to get to publish in SIGCOMM'. But in Thailand, I can say that the majority of students, they don't know about SIGCOMM'. They don't know about how tough to improve their work to get to the standard of SIGCOMM'. So we have this initiative that we call SIGCOMM' Southeast Asia Pods. So basically, the objective is to create the awareness of high quality research, basically SIGCOMM' research, right? SIGCOMM' level research works. And also to build up the research capability in Thailand, in Southeast Asia, and basically all the many countries in Southeast Asia. So what do we do? Actually, in parallel with SIGCOMM' conference, In Southeast Asia, we have set up multiple pods in various countries like Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Philippines. Then we live stream the presentation from SIGCOMM to those pods. And at the end of the day, we also have the Q&A session where we select the authors of some selected papers. The reason that we have to select the paper is because we only have 1 hour, so that's why we can accommodate just a few papers. And inside the pod, we also do paper discussion. Okay, and these are the photos from the pods last year. There were 18 attendants from Thailand, 11 from Indonesia, 4 from Philippines, 29 from Vietnam, and 25 from Malaysia. And you can see we also have the live Q&A session where we invite the author of some papers to discuss their papers and also to answer questions that the audience from Southeast Asia had. This year we continue the activities. Now we have 5 pods, 2 pods from Thailand and 1 each from Vietnam, Philippines, and Indonesia. And these are the early statistics of the attendance because the Philippines and Indonesia, they will start the pod today. And we have the Q&A session tomorrow. So lastly, on behalf of the SIGCOMM SEA pod teams, so we would like to thank the support from SIGCOMM. Actually, SIGCOMM has supporting us like 3 years in a row, like from 2023 until this year. And last year, SIGCOMM also support like travel grant for 22 members from Southeast Asia to go to SIGCOMM in Australia, because Southeast Asia and Australia are quite close. So 22 members go there. But this year, just me, 1 representative that come to this SIGCOMM. And SIGCOMM also provide the Geodiversity Travel Award to support the author of ANTEC Best Paper Awards to come to SIGCOMM next year. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, next we have Christophe Dio with the budget.
Okay, and by the way, some of you might know that SIGCOMM 2027 will be in Bangkok, and that's part of this effort. I mean, we're trying to build a community before we go to Bangkok, and we can join the 2 efforts and develop even more. So I'm going to go very fast because we have a panel, and I think it's more interesting than numbers. The message overall, finance are doing well. I mean, year over year, we have around 3 million in the banks, 2.9, something like that. Every year, we spend less than the profits. Don't call that profits. I mean, what we save from conference, and we don't give any objective of benefits to conference. We just ask them not to lose money. The membership, I mean, membership is going down. The great times we are more than 2,000 people. These days we have 800. But you know, in the past, people would pay for CCR, people would pay for tangible things. In these days, it's more difficult. And I still notice that 50% of the students this year registered at the non-ACM rate. That hurts, but I don't know what to do to bring more members, and maybe we need to find new ways to attract people to be members. Maybe awards and discount at conference are not enough. As I said earlier, we remain healthy. This is the evolution of the blue one is the evolution of the money we have. The red one is the minimum that we need to have legally from an ACM standpoint to operate as a SIG. So we're good, we can spend money. Where does the money come from? Conference, digital library revenue and membership fees. And we're going to talk about digital library pretty soon. Where does the money go? Mostly in grants and awards. So for example, last year in Sydney, the Southeast Asia support was around $60,000. So, and we have to support grants in most of the conference, IMC, CoNEXT, SIGCOMM', AppNet, or APNet. So the question is, we just started our term with Matt, and we decided to spend the money. Okay, so we don't want to bankrupt the SIG, but we think we can easily spend 1 million, maybe 1.5 or 2, in diversity actions. But if you have any ideas, please talk to us, contact us. You can even talk now, but we have a panel that's more interesting after that, so maybe we can keep the final discussion for later. So we're trying to support the Southeast Asia community. We'd like to do the same thing with Africa. There are going to be, let's say, maybe 100K per year for each. So that's 200K. We are not at the 1 million yet. So we have more money that you can spend. I mean more than today, okay? Because we already support travel grants. So we can do much more. We want to pay grants in advance. Thanks to Kanchana, we could do that last year. I mean, many students, you can give them a travel grant, they don't have the money to pay their tickets in advance and they cannot come. So we need to build something. I mean, SCM is not prepared to support this kind of thing. Kanchana has been dealing with us, for us. She took the money and she paid everyone. We need to make progress. I think it's key to being really inclusive and bringing people from regions where they cannot afford a $500 or $700 ticket to come to SIGCOMM'. We want to support local events, more pods. You have seen the example of the pods. We can probably do better and a little bit different. Maybe you have local workshops going on, so we need to support that. We want to encourage participation to the flagship events, then make it easier to publish at those events. So we're thinking of creating workshops, but I mean, that doesn't necessarily cost a lot of money. Yeah, to bring people, sponsor PhD and postdoc, create additional events. I mean, if you have any ideas on how we could spend the money to diversify and grow the community or educate, I mean, please contact us, send an email to Matt, to myself, or to Atina, who is the vice chair, and we'll be happy to engage. Maybe we need to start a thread on Slack, okay? Oh yeah, so you've heard probably that ACM is changing, and now there will be their policy for publishing papers, and now there will be an article processing charge, the APC. So SIGCOMM' had the deal with ACM that we were publishing the paper on our website for a certain amount of time, and it was for free, okay? Nobody told us that the deal was over, but that has always been a broken deal. It's very difficult to publish the paper. Sometimes it doesn't work. I mean, it's really ad hoc. So we need, we don't know how long it's going to go, and we need to rationalize our relationship. So starting next year, all ACM conference will become open access, okay? Which means that the money will have to come from somewhere else. ACM wants to, and has started to impose a new fee on all ACM authors. It's going to be $700. I think that's the initial amount per conference paper for the ACM members, for the authors. If you have exception, if you come from the less wealthy countries, where they will give you anywhere between a couple $100 to $0, okay? So given this is an evolving situation, we don't know exactly where it's going. The policy we have decided to adopt at the SIG is manage APC as a grant. If you publish a paper with one of the SIGCOMM' conference, you cannot pay for it, come to us, and we'll give you a grant, okay? And so it's clear that if you're a big corporation or a big university, that might be more difficult to sell, and you probably have the money to pay. But if you come from university in Thailand or in Morocco, in that case, if you have to pay something, we will help. So we will manage that on a grant-based, like travel grant. But again, this is moving. We don't know exactly where it's going to end. It's a transitional period, and this is a transitional policy that we have recently decided at the EC. We discussed that already, and let's move to education.
So I'm going to be speaking on behalf of Chao Zhang, who's our Director of Education, who had to suddenly leave. He's been doing a lot of work on education, actually. He's been extremely active. He launched 3 new initiatives this past year. The SIGCOMM' Paper Reading Group, 17 episodes and counting. He launched the SIGCOMM' Scribe program, which is, many thanks to all the student volunteers, over 40 student volunteers who have jumped in and really helped with that. That's amazing. There's also a shadow PC for CoNEXT that's being run as well, so that's really great. We wanted to tell you a little bit more about the SIGCOMM' Paper Reading Group. This is something we kind of did in alpha last year, or Chao did it, he's doing all the work. This was launched, and it's really grown. It's really taken off, over 100 participants in pretty much every session. It's working out really well. It's not just presenting papers. We don't let the authors come in and present. It's a non-author student who presents the paper. The focus is on discussions, on keeping it interactive, and controversy is encouraged, and questions, and so there's a lot of focus on that. But the actual authors show up and can actually ask questions and stuff like that. So it's pretty neat, actually. There's recordings of these on YouTube, and it's being rebroadcast onto Bilibili, which is a Chinese mechanism for distributing video. 17 episodes, they're available for download. There's a question of, let's see, we've had most participation from Asia. In Europe is starting to kind of take off. Not so much participation from North America. We didn't really advertise it very well, but we're advertising it now. So please feel free to join. Everybody's welcome. It's a great resource. There's a question of which papers to choose. We're still kind of working out how to do that. Because it's tricky. I mean, just because we choose a paper doesn't mean it's like the best paper necessarily. We want to do it fairly. It's pretty much community driven. If you volunteer and you want to present a paper, then you can present a paper. There's also a question how we advertise this. So we're trying to advertise on Slack and the mailing list once in a while as well. But please feel free to join. If you have any feedback, you can please send Chao an email. But it's a really neat resource if you have time to join, and you can sign up there as well. The next thing we want to do is we want to announce a new award. The SIGCOMM is unique in that we only have awards for research right now, and that is going to change because right now we now have a new award. It is the ACM SIGCOMM Distinguished Community Service Award. We've long had ways to recognize people in our community who do excellent things in terms of research, and those people are amazing, and we want to keep doing that. But we haven't always had a way to thank and let people know about the amazing things that people do in terms of service. And something I've learned in this job is I was very surprised to find out how many people in our community are just so active and do so many things, and nobody really knows. And so this is a way we can kind of help people know about that. And it's going to be really hard because there's so many people who really deserve to get this award. But we're going to do this every year, and so we can kind of churn through, get through people and get them acknowledged. And so if you can help us think of people to nominate, that would be very helpful if you can start thinking about that. We're going to send out the nomination instructions soon. The award's going to be given out likely at SIGCOMM with our other awards, and so the timeline, the deadline should align with our other awards. And then next, we have a special distinguished member of our community who's going to be announcing the location of SIGCOMM next year.
All right, hello. So I'm Eric Keller from the University of Colorado, and SIGCOMM' 2026 will be in Denver, Colorado. So myself and all right, So those are the current dates. Hopefully they won't change. And Sancte Ha will be my general co-chair. I'm from the University of Colorado. We both are. These are pictures of Denver. So one of the cool things I really like about going to conferences like these is it lets you visit places you might not normally visit. So I thought I would tell you a little bit about Denver. I love Denver. So if you don't know where it is, that's a map of the United States. So Denver, or Colorado, is the highlighted state right there, and Denver's kind of the capital of it and right in the middle. It's a decent-sized city, so the metro area is about 3 million people. So that's nice because it gives you some great restaurants and good culture, good sports, good transportation, but it's not really overly crowded. It's a modern city, but it does have some history. So it was founded really around the time of, really when it was populated, when people started moving there, was during the gold rush of the kind of 1850s, the Old West, if you've seen movies. So our basketball team is called the Denver Nuggets after that, and that's right there, a picture of the best basketball player in the world, plays for Denver, Nikola Jokic, the Joker. Got a good tech scene there, so I think that it's a mix of healthy lifestyle that we bring, great weather. It's a metro area, so it's popular for people like us that want to live in a nice place. I put a little note that AS1 is actually in Denver, and there's a large number of data centers and tech companies around. So nearby attractions, if you do kind of want to come, so bottom right hand is a picture of Red Rocks Amphitheater. It's a great concert venue. It's outdoors. It's got these great rock formations. It's really incredible. Pikes Peak is nearby. If you've heard the song America the Beautiful and you've heard the lyrics Purple Mountains Majesty, that's referring to the Rocky Mountains and Pikes Peak in particular. So that's nearby. Boulder, that's where I'm from. So it's a cool little town. Got the University of Colorado there. And then, is there any South Park fans out there? All right, so Casa Bonita is real. I just went there, a couple months ago. Those were two students at the University of Colorado that created this, kind of worldwide phenomenon called South Park. It's a kind of area in the mountains in Colorado, and Casa Bonita is a kind of local legend there. So for that, I'll leave it there. If you'd like to help out, please contact us. There's our email addresses, and hope to see you there. All right, thanks.
Trying to be quick. So we had a few exciting days of SIGCOMM already this year. One more day to go. It's quite a while till we go to Colorado next year. In the meantime, since to keep you on exciting things, we have CoNEXT coming up in Hong Kong in the beginning of December with an exciting program put together by Andra and Jing. We have a record number of submissions and we have a record number of accepted papers, so you're welcome to join us there. So this is just a little heads up. And just to announce this briefly, we put forward a call for site proposals earlier this year, late spring, got a bunch of submissions. In the end, we are happy that 3 folks from the Netherlands, from the University of Twente, stepped up to host CoNEXT 2026 in December in the city of Utrecht. Antonia, Raffaele, and Roland are the general chairs. And we are very pleased to have Jesse Chen and Gianni Antici as our PC chairs. And so there's already a heads up for your submission schedule for this fall. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to do something really different. This is going to be the community discussion where we're going to turn things over to you. You can approach the microphones, you can ask questions, you can help us have a discussion. The goal of this discussion is to improve reviewing practices at SIGCOMM. Can we make our conferences even better at reviewing papers? And So the motivation for this is a few years ago, we had the pandemic and we all went home and we were all frustrated and we all came back and we realized that we could really make change and we could really improve things. And so we came back and you all had great interest and great ideas in how to do that. The SIG capitalized on that by launching this initiative for change. We can't really make change ourselves. We rely on volunteers, but we did documentation and reviews and things like that. Sorry, question, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Actually, we just talked about all the upheaval happening in the US and all those kinds of things. And while I love Denver, and I'm certainly willing to travel there are a bunch of people in our community that will be excluded. How are we going to deal with it as a community with all these visa restrictions, with all the questions about inclusion, with all the various different issues there? Shouldn't we actually deal with that? And what does it mean for selecting locations for having our conferences there?
I don't know if you can solve that now, Anya, but basically if we do it, wherever we do it, there will be a visa problem. Okay, and wherever we do it, there will be students that we cannot go. So I think the best thing is still to move around so that people can come and we have a diverse set of people that can at least attend SIGCOMM or IMC every 2 years, because there is nothing that we as a community can do to solve the visa problem, except we discuss things today like, can we give the visa letters when people submit?
Well, I think we have to come up with policies because all the people that are actually awesome will not be able to come. We have to deal with visas being rejected. We already have the problem here that some of the speakers couldn't come even to Europe. US is really putting a burden on it, but it's also the burden of the political change there and the policy being set. And I think we, as a community, will really have to address it. And the question is how, and I really want to bring this up here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's discuss that offline. Thanks, Anya.
Yeah, it's a good point. So the SIG, among other things, created a director of change position to kind of continue and encourage change to take place in the community in various ways to improve our conferences. We're very thankful to Keith Winstein, who stepped into this role from Stanford. And Keith came in and he said, okay, look, so, conferences have 3 parts. Okay, so they have the day of the conference where there's all the presentations and talks and things like that. There's the part before the conference where reviewing takes place, and then there's the part after the conference where, there's open access and digital library and stuff like that. And his idea was let's focus on each of those things in turn. And so there was a sense of urgency that we needed to do something quickly, and so we thought, okay, we're going to focus on during the conference first. And so there was a lot that happened, a lot of discussions, a lot of people came together, and a lot of debate. And what emerged from that was a very significant change plan. That not this idea of non-paper sessions. We're going to change the conference to have a third, not be technical content anymore. Dual tracks, very major changes. There was a lot of worry about whether these changes would work or would they be successful. Would we just keep arguing? Would we come together as a community? And amazingly, it really worked. I mean, if you were there at SIGCOMM last year, you saw these changes. They were very, very significant changes, and you loved them. I mean, the surveys came back, and 87% of you said, the non-paper sessions, you like them. Not just you like them, but you want them exactly the same, not longer, not short. We got them. You got them right. The dual tracks, people like dual tracks, 88% of you. Very high, amount of support for these changes. And so this gives me a lot of help. This is a lot of hope that, we can really come together as a community. And maybe sometimes we just need to try to make changes. And if we try to make changes, maybe we end up liking them and we can kind of fiddle around with them to make them work. And we're very thankful to the organizers of SIGCOMM' 2024 and 2025 who put a lot of effort into these changes. So that's the day of the conference. So now we're looking at the next phase of this, which is improving reviewing. So we need to improve the quality of reviews at SIGCOMM. So there's reviews, and reviews are, they're good, but we need to make them even better. We all see and hear about problems, Twitter, things like that. But that's not a scientific way to understand the problems. Just getting your own paper back is not a way to understand the problems. We're scientists, and we need to, do studies to really understand what the problem is and how widespread it is and what's causing it. And so this was done. You may have noticed there are various surveys that went out to different SIG events. The program committee chairs of this year and last year were very helpful in, sharing data. There were analyses done on hot CRP data. We did one-on-one interviews with program committee members. We talked with other SIGs and found out what they were seeing in their conferences. And so very significant discussion and investigation into problems. And what we found is there's a lot that's really working well. It's not like SIGCOMM's falling apart or everything's bad or anything like that. A lot is actually working very well. But at the same time, there seem to be some problems that are on the horizon that are emerging, which could make things bad. And it's really important we jump in and fix those issues before they become bad. We really want to thank the efforts of conference organizers over the past year as well, who have really invented and tried a lot of things. And we've actually gotten a lot of data already on kind of what works and what doesn't, and very innovative ideas coming from various people in the community who run events. And so there's a lot of observations that have been made. There's a few key things that we notice that seem to be happening. One thing is our community seems to be exploding. There's a huge increase in the number of papers that we're getting at our events. And there's reasons for this. We saw, the rise of, China, and not just China, there's, Eastern Europe, and there's various kind of communities that didn't publish in SIGCOMM before. But now more people are entering SIGCOMM and publishing, and that's a wonderful thing. We see the rise of AI. People are using large language models to kind of create papers and shape papers, and they're doing it in bad ways a little bit sometimes, but mostly it's good. I mean, the grammar is a solved problem now, and so science is just happening faster now, and we're getting papers faster and faster, and that's a really wonderful thing. We want that to happen. But at the same time, our reviewing pools are not increasing in size to match as quickly, and so that's a challenge that's emerging. And there's things we can do, but that seems to be one issue. Another issue is that SIGCOMM may be kind of moving towards execution, maybe potentially valuing innovation a little bit. There's something that's happening where we have this execution track where we encourage industry to submit papers and their experience papers. And those are really great papers, and so those become very successful, and we get more and more of those, and so more people who do experience sorts of things get on the PC, and they evaluate papers in ways that value experience more and more. And so there's this belief that SIGCOMM may be shifting a little bit more towards experience over innovation, and we can correct that too, but that may be something that's potentially happening. There's a few other things like shifting scope. SIGCOMM needs to keep up with new technologies that are emerging, and so on. And so there's a bunch of other kind of results that we see. Students are feeling stress from not getting papers accepted, and we need to be polite to them in reviews, but we also need to, be able to accept papers more if we can. It's stressful for students if we kind of reject papers. We really need to try and accept them if we can. There's a lot of consensus around what people see in reviews. There's a widespread belief that reviewers need to have more expertise to review papers. There's a belief that reviewers are maybe too focused on details and not recognizing innovation enough. They need to focus on what's innovative about a paper rather than worried whether it was, evaluated in a certain way. People want to do maybe even kind of journal-like approaches for papers. We don't just want to throw away papers if they get rejected. We want to give them a chance to revise and resubmit and try again, and so on. So we are starting to see the same sort of thing that we saw for the day of. We're starting to see a lot of consensus around ideas. And so that's what the panel is going to discuss. We have an amazing group of people here, and Christoph's going to take over. And
Okay, thanks, Matt. So to summarize for the panel, if there is a good idea, if there is an experience that people can learn from in networking, it should be one, submitted to SIGCOMM, and second, accepted by SIGCOMM. Okay, and we want to make sure that we don't reject any paper that could benefit to the community, and similarly that we don't accept too many papers, because the story about false positive and false negative, perfect is not possible. Okay, we can probably minimize the miss of good paper, but at the cost of taking some papers that shouldn't be accepted. So that's really the goal of the community. And we have assembled a panel of people that are involved through the organization of this year as PC chair, like Srikant and George, through the TSC. We have Sujata and Jeff. Vyas was the chair last year. Brighton has been very active in submitting new ideas and proposing changes to the way we manage the process and we review papers. And we have Keith here, who is helping the SIGCOMM' exec committee with in a position of change director, helping us understand where we can go, what we can do, and synthesize with us to move forward and implement some change. Okay, so we were supposed to have an hour, we have 45 minutes, and I propose that each of the panelists can take 2-3 minutes to explain their vision or their ideas or just give us feedback on their experience as a chair, as a TSC member, and then we can go through and take questions in the room. Okay, so Srikant, you want to start or we go random? George? Go ahead, George.
Okay, sure. Hi, everyone. I actually thought we were just going to accept questions, but I just think just to give you a little bit of 1-minute perspective is one of the things that we really did this year, in addition to the things that were described with the bulleted approach that Matt put up, was to try various ways of incentivizing papers to be accepted, and we had the shorts. We had this question about finding papers that really changed the way you think about networking. We found that bringing those to the PC actually caused them several to get accepted. There's a correlation there at least. And so there are these options, and they do. We have the largest program ever, one of the most diverse programs ever in terms of authorship institutions. And so, I think there is some evidence that if we try things, it can definitely move the needle in some respect. I think continuing to try to do things that make things better is absolutely a good idea. I know that's a little bit of a banal thing to say, but that's what I would say.
Okay. So hi, everyone. So I chaired SIGCOMM' in 2020, co-chaired with Ratul Mahajan. In 2020, everybody knows what was happening. We had the first ever remote conference, and it all worked out reasonably well, but I feel like post-COVID, things have changed in quite a significant way. For example, the in-person PCs, went away during that phase. So some of the junior colleagues have never seen an in-person PC, for example. And just sort of hearing about the previous panel as well, there's a lot going on in the world. And in my experience in the last 5 years, we're all feeling the pressure. We are doing a number of different things, and this is from the reviewer side, from the author side. How many of you are multitasking at this conference? NSDI deadline is next week. So a lot's going on, and as a result, it's getting harder and harder to put together PCs and sort of get that really detailed, on-time, all-expert reviews. And as a result, I think we need to sort of do things differently. We've already done a bunch of things differently. So last year was, I guess, the first time we had dual track. And it took years of sort of, discussing with the community before we went to dual track. And I think we should be doing a number of things differently. And some of our sister communities have already gone there. So if you think about the database community, the AI community, the reviewing practices have evolved there because we need to scale reviewing. And as a result, we might be considering things like multiple deadlines. What can we do to bring down the collective pressure we all feel as authors, as reviewers, as PC chairs? So that might be one way to think about, reducing the pressure, having multiple deadlines, for example. Open reviews, that's been proposed as well. Having ways to bring in the expert reviews from the community. I think you guys did a bunch of things to bring in, sort of, did you have external reviewers? You solicited some. Yeah. So having sort of, you have the PC, but having people who are on standby to, come and help in different areas to improve the feedback might be other things. So I'll stop here. I mean, I think there'll be questions and, we can go on. But experimentation, I think, is key.
All right. Okay. These are all great ideas, and I want to say, it's awesome that we're spending time specifically talking about change. I don't think that was the case like 10 years ago. All right, let me start with a question. How many of you have submitted to SIGCOMM'? Okay, hopefully there's a lot of hands. All right. Now, of you, keep your hands up. How many of you have had the experience of submitting, getting rejected, but eventually that paper maybe gets resubmitted and eventually gets published in a conference of similar quality? Probably essentially the same number of people, because that's the common case for me too. And I think for everyone who's not at SIGCOMM', maybe because your paper got rejected or you haven't submitted yet, just know that it's the same experience for experienced people as well. Our papers get rejected too. That's life. Right now, that's life. But the result of that is that we typically take, like, the average time from first submission of a conference paper to acceptance. The average time can be a year, 2 years, even sometimes 3 years for some papers. And this is what I want to focus on for just a couple of minutes. And there's a much longer version of this rant that is on the SIGCOMM Slack channel. So you can check that out, but I'll just make a couple key points now. We're spending a significant amount of time to get papers published, and this is bad for authors, especially students, because there's all this uncertainty. Will my paper be accepted, this time or not? I have no idea. And it's the main thing I'm doing, and my graduation might be declared, or I might not even know whether I can do research if my paper keeps getting rejected. It's bad for reviewers, because we're spending a lot of time re-reviewing the same papers with a completely fresh set of reviewers, which is a lot of time investment. And it's also bad for the community, the scientific community, scientific progress in general, that we're delaying results getting out to the world for on the order of years. We think our community, the rate of scientific progress right now is pretty fast. If you think about all of the changes that are happening in our field, the fact that we delay research by years just to get published is kind of crazy, actually, I would say. It's ridiculous. So, what can we do about it? I think, just to make this concrete, and we're all here for discussion, and that's why we're talking about it, so we can get feedback from the whole community, but I want to also have some concrete stake in the ground here, and that would be a more iterative process where you will submit, okay, so you may still have a single, maybe even a single submission deadline that you submit to with one PC. But then, in addition to an accept and a reject, you may get a promising result. What does promising or revise mean? It means that, hey, this is the kind of work that we could see getting published in the future in a top conference. And in that case, you could resubmit rather quickly and revise the paper with the same set of reviewers. And that's a pretty key thing. So I want to emphasize that this kind of direction, if we took steps, if we implemented something like this, it's very different than revisions that have been tried currently in conferences like NSDI, because we'd be talking about something like 40% of papers getting a revise, as opposed to like 5% or less. So this would be a very different system that hopefully is a lot faster to get work out there. And it's not even radical, because other fields are doing this, essentially, in journal processes, which are much faster than our conference processes. We thought that our conference processes were fast 15 years ago. That was our reasoning as a community. There's a CRA article on this, in fact. That's no longer true. So it's time to rethink things. That's my stake in the ground.
Okay, thanks, Brighton. SIGCOMM', do you want to go? And we go online after that. Now they are in front of us, so it's easier.
I just wanted to say a few things, just anecdotes. There were several papers that were getting very highly rated until a reviewer appears and says, this is exactly the same PDF I've reviewed at Conference X. And I was weakly accepting, I was one of the positive reviewers in the previous iteration, but I'm really bummed that they completely ignored my feedback. And now I'm a strong reject. This happened more than once, and maybe you've seen other anecdotes. So this happens, okay? Another anecdote I'd like to say is sometimes what happens is somebody gives a paper a strong accept or a weak accept, and then when given a little bit of a pushback from somebody else in the PC, quickly drops their support for the paper. And when as chairs we see it, we are a bit amazed, because every chair, some of you will be chairs in the future, every chair is trying to get as many papers as they possibly can into the program to a first approximation. So if you're one of those reviewers, try not to do that. Like, try to kind of have a backbone and at least stand up for why you've liked your paper, because that's actually more important than saying why a paper shouldn't get in. Because it's very easy to find reasons for why a paper shouldn't get in, but the converse case is what we are looking for in reviewers. In spite of the following issues, we still believe that this paper should get in is the stance we are looking for. And the more often that stance comes, the more often we'll get papers in, the more our community will improve.
Okay, thanks, Rikan. That reminds me, one of my past managers was saying, Christophe, find reason to say yes. It's easy to say no, but find reason. That should be maybe a question in the review now. I don't ask people to say no, but just why would it be a yes?
We added one field in the review this time, which is what would change you to a yes?
Okay. Okay, cool. That's a good one. So now we go online. I saw that Keith was really ready to jump with the microphone. Is he? No? So who wants to start? Yes, you want to go? You have been sending me email because we were late, so let's go and then we do...
I just wanted to make sure I was on the... Oh, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, go.
Am I audible? Okay, cool. Hey, good to be here. I may have either the honor or the dubious distinction of being the chair who introduced dual tracks for both NSDI and SIGCOMM'. So maybe 10 years from now, people will think that's a great idea, or I'm a really stupid person. So one of those things will be true. The other thing, also to echo what Brighton said, I will agree, right? I mean, everyone gets rejected. I never got a paper into SIGCOMM' as a first author ever in my life in a grad school. Somehow I managed to figure out how to do that later. So happy to share, if you're a student, come and talk to us how to make your papers better. So it doesn't mean that all of us have cracked the code. Some of us learn over time how to make a paper better. That's all I have to say. And one more thing. I think there's a lot of really good ideas. I think the only constant in this community and the people organizing is that we all care about making SIGCOMM' better. It's not like one idea is any better than the other idea. I think the only thing is we have to try and converge to what seems like a good equilibrium. So we need to try.
Okay, thanks, Jas. Who's next? You want to go, Keith? And we keep the best for the end?
Sure. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, very well, yeah.
I mean, I think, my role here is probably to help the other members of the SIGCOMM' ecosystem, which is the SIGCOMM' board, including EC, and the SIGCOMM' conference steering committee, trying to help shepherd through practical change, whether that's, what we're talking about now, which is the review process before the conference, or the format of the conference, or the durable artifacts of the conference. So I kind of try to bring people together. At this point, I think my own opinion is that any experimentation would probably be healthy, and we're going to have to try things and see what works. I mean, honestly, I like Brighton's ideas. If you talk to 50 prominent people in this community, there's probably 60 ideas about how SIGCOMM could be changed in its reviewing process, and we're not all on the same page. Some of us went and created this NINES conference, the New Ideas in Network Systems conference. Some people have different views, and I think we're going to have to try things. One of the ideas I have been pushing that we might do is to try to have like an explicit mini conference within a conference that would be like day 2 of 4, day 3 of 4, that would be the SIGCOMM Alpha or the SIGCOMM Beta conference that would still feed into the proceedings, but that would have maybe a different program committee or a different procedure, and we'd try it and we'd see how it went, and it would be like a controlled venue for experimentation. I don't know if we'll do that, but I think there's a lot of constituencies here, and SIGCOMM is a precious thing. It's like 60 years old. No one wants to screw it up. It's an important part of the scientific literature. So I think getting us to get consensus on some sort of experimentation and try things is probably the way we're going to move forward in this reviewing process. The process of trying to find better ways to do this. I don't know that it's an easy problem. I think if I gave you my sort of substantive opinions, everyone would be real mad at me because I think this is really hard. I think there's a lot of issues that we are facing from many different fronts. I think maybe I'll stop there. But I think my role here, I think, is try to help us get sufficient consensus to try some experiments. I'll stop there.
Thanks, Keith. But the only risk of experimenting is people don't submit or people don't come. So we can correct that. Okay. Jeff?
All right, hi everybody. I'm very sorry that I'm unable to join you all in person. In thinking about the review quality question, it made me think that it's good to remember, to keep in mind, that authors and reviewers, we're all part of the same community. And so I just wanted to offer up a modest suggestion to get more of the community involved in the reviewing process. And it made me think of Usenix Security, which is a community that has already had to deal with a lot of scale problems already. One of the things that they do for reviewers is they allow self-nominations for people to become reviewers in the conference. And I like the idea, and I just want to offer it up as a suggestion for SIGCOMM to consider adopting. It has a number of benefits. One of them is just administrative. The PT chairs already spent a large amount of time recruiting reviewers and keeping on top of them. This is a mechanism that allows people to self-select for people who actually want to review. And it's a mechanism that could potentially expand the reviewer base, particularly with respect to trying to accommodate new areas. So if there are people who want to support in the community, who want to support new areas, broaden what it is, the scope of SIGCOMM, this is one way in which people in new areas can contribute to the conference and contribute their time reviewing. All right, I'll leave it at that and let us go on to the Q&A.
Okay, thanks. Let's take now, so we're good. We have like 20, 25 minutes for question in the room. We cannot leave late because we have to be at dinner at 8 p.m., I think. So let's start, Marwan, and then after that, someone else has a microphone? Okay, can you stand up, please, and introduce yourself, because from here we don't see much.
I don't know if this works. Okay. Hi, I'm Behnaz. I have 2 points to make. First of all is a very quick one. Since one of the HotNets chairs is sitting there, I wanted to first thank you, because during the HotNets deadline, one of my communities that I'm a part of was going through one of the worst times of our lives, I think. And we emailed Brighton, asked if they could move the HotNets deadline, and you showed great humanity in doing that. So I wanted to first thank you on behalf of all of us. So that's one. I have a story and a solution for that story to also share. There was one in SDI where, and this is kind of common with what I'm seeing in SIGCOMM as well, which is why I'm sharing it, is we had a paper rejected. After that deadline, I rewrote the entirety of that paper, didn't do any extra experiments. In the reviews we got back, a reviewer said, I was reviewer B last time. Thank you for adding this experiment to your paper. Where the experiment was already there, I just had moved it to somewhere else in the text. And so my suggestion is, and I know that there are probably privacy issues with this, but as PC chairs, can you use AI actually to catch these cases where there's a factual error in the reviews? You can check the reviews, and maybe it's something like if the authors are okay with it, they check a box that you can use AI to check the reviews that they're getting, to make sure the reviews they get are at least factually correct. I think that would be extremely helpful. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm taking note and I'm slow, but that's a very good suggestion. We are thinking of how to use AI in a positive way because we have been experiencing many use of AI in a negative, in a bad way. I mean, we have had a paper submitted recently, not to SIGCOMM, but that had the reference section generated by AI, by LLMs. So that's a very good one. Someone wants to comment on that? Or? Online?
I can say a couple things. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting idea. There might be other ways also that we could use AI to check reviews for common things. Like another example that comes to mind is if a reviewer is saying, hey, this is the same as some past work, they should be pointing out what specific past work that is. These are also like standards that as the community of reviewers grows, maybe we do have to do some better education about, hey, what are good reviewing practices? I think we probably don't do enough of that as well. I think also as far as like factual correctness, I personally think also the authors are actually probably in the best position to respond, both in terms of knowledge and incentives. And so some process that allows a conversation between reviewers and authors, I think will be helpful.
So one is, all this is reassuring, thank you, I'll be quick.
Introduce yourself, please.
I'm Marwan, Cloudflare most of the time. So the iterative in this, I want a dialogue with the authors. Hands down, when there's controversy, when there's open questions, there was a time in which knowledge was advanced by having arguments. I don't want to have arguments, but I want a dialogue and a negotiation. And like, did you mean this? Can we do that? How about the next thing? They should be able to come back to us and say, how about we do this instead? I want the dialogue.
So we've periodically had rebuttals. We didn't do it this year. We've done it periodically. Marwan, you're thinking something.
I don't want, not like one shot, like, right?
But
I want
a dialogue. Okay, so a better rebuttal discussion process.
No, but we're going in the direction of what Brighton wants, okay, which is a smoother process of exchange between the reviewers and the authors, because sometimes you want to explain yourself, sometimes you want to bring, and that makes sense. But we need to do it. Are you ready to reveal your identity to do that? Okay, next question. Stand up, please. I think I recognize you, but
okay. So I'm Hassan Wasil from Google. So I have 2 points to, one of them is a question and the second is a comment. Let me start with the comment. Have we thought about doing the VLDB style revise and resubmit, which is a monthly deadline, and there is 1 month, and if you get accepted by that month, you couldn't do the program for that year, and then, but the process of reviewing it is every month, and it's kind of provide that dialogue. So VLDB have done that for years now. I think it's a good idea to try. So that's one. The second is regarding this advancement of science. What are we thinking regarding putting papers on archive before getting accepted? So basically, what is the SIGCOMM community thinking about that?
I think, so Marwan, again, in response to that, in principle, I like the idea. The problem that I have, especially interacting with many outside of our community who should be in the community, there is this, I think there's this human element where you see a PDF that's well formatted in 2-column format and so on, and it appears on archive, it's suddenly treated as authoritative. And there are some communities that are used to that model, math and physics and so on, right? But we are not, and theory, we are not there. So oftentimes on more than I can count, people have come to me and said, hey, what do you think of this? And it's an archive source, it has yet to be peer reviewed, and people are making decisions based on that information. And then I struggle to say, actually, here are the problems with it, you might want to wait. I don't think we're there yet for archive.
Yeah, I was just going to say that VLDB was one of the examples I was thinking about, that they've done things pretty differently, and I don't know if it really reduces the overall burden on the authors, but it's certainly something that we could experiment with if we wanted to.
Yeah, the VLDB process is very similar to what I was proposing in that rant that I posted on the Slack channel. I think that the differences are more in the next level of details about, do you do something asynchronous or monthly? Is it about the re-review process or initial submission? So those are some details, but basically, yeah. The archive question is pretty interesting, I think. There's some trade-offs there that we should probably discuss as a community. In addition to what Marwan said, one issue is that can make it much harder to do double-blind reviewing because the papers are already out there to an extent. It may not make it impossible, but it's a consideration. A second thing is that it gets the work out there so you're less vulnerable to being randomly scooped in the year or whatever that it takes you to actually get it published with peer review. So that's something that we can consider as a community also. What do we want to consider as the date of a paper? I think some other communities consider when you posted to archive, that's the timestamp. That shows when you did the work. Also, you would be much less likely to be... I guess I'm talking enough. All right, I'll take that as a hint. But just to finish that sentence, you would not then be asked to compare to work that appeared after that archive submission, which might be a smoother process if, perhaps a student has graduated, so it's just not going to happen right after that. So we have to think about those issues, I think. It's an interesting option.
Yeah, so just our policy this year was that you could have papers on archive and submit them to SIGCOMM. So there was nothing precluding that. I just want to be clear, right?
There should be some effort at an
I mean, yeah, you should not email the PC chairs your archive thing or something right before the deadline or something. But there was some of that. I mean, I think, one of the issues can be that we expect reviewers to be knowledgeable of SIGCOMM papers in their subfield. And I think sometimes if you have, this paper's not as good as this archive paper that's not peer reviewed, that, whatever. Now there's a question of sort of like, what is the comparison set of what you're comparing against? And if someone says, well, but that paper's 87% better, and then it turns out actually it wasn't, it's just like got online. And that's not to say that the work won't eventually be good, but it creates an odd kind of way of comparison because it just becomes a little bit more challenging, that's all.
Yeah. De-anonymization is a concern, but the other concern that did come up at least once this cycle was if you considered work on archive as prior art, then you have to compare and contrast, which we weren't holding as a necessary criteria.
Yeah, so you couldn't say, PC members couldn't be like, I'd like to reject this paper because it's not as good as this archive paper that exists. Like, that was not allowed. So the flip side kind of is implied too.
Okay, so, no, wait, there is a new question over there. Can you introduce you first, please?
Inder Monga from ESNet. So my question is more on the reviewer side of things. And I think what I hear is a lot of authors complaining that the reviewers are not doing a good job or got something wrong. And I just want to see that we can follow some standard corporate practices which we use to onboard employees for reviewers, right? You have some way to kind of set expectations. You may have an experienced reviewer as a mentor for a new reviewer. You may have someone spot check reviews for new reviewers to help them in a friendly way, not as a matter of criticism. And again, make it less onerous for a reviewer to talk to the PC chair and say, hey, I don't think I'm a good fit here, and not make it like a really high bar to kind of say that, yes, I got assigned this, I thought it was a thing, but I don't think I'm an expert, I need help. And so those kind of things, if we can make the reviewer community stronger, more supported, rather than assuming they will all swim wonderfully if included, I think would help increase the pool set of reviewers, increase the number of people that want to be reviewers, and end up being good reviews for the people.
Maybe I can respond to that?
Go ahead, Keith.
I mean, I think the question is very well taken. I think that my sense is that all of these similar conferences, SIGCOMM and NSDI and CoNEXT, HotNets and SOSP and OSDI and ATC, I think all these conferences are dealing with a bunch of related issues. There's certainly a lot of frustration by authors about the culture of the reviews, and reviewers seeming sometimes to want to replicate their own trauma, was the phrase. You know, if a reviewer has fought 5 times to get a paper in and it finally got in only when they did X evaluation, there's a belief that reviewers now want to see X evaluation in any future similar paper. And it's, you know, those sort of cultural frustrations that have produced the NINES conference, which is about changing the culture within the PC. But I think there is also a lot of frustration by reviewers about the submissions. I don't think we should treat this as a one-sided thing. You know, if you talk to the reviewers, like, it's a thankless volunteer job where you get, you know, a lot of other people's work that you have to review. And there is a feeling that the reviewers feel sometimes that they are the only people who care about the reader, and that the whole purpose of this is to produce educational material for the reader. That's the people for whom all this activity is intended to benefit. And there's a feeling that, like, you're the only cop on the beat, and that the authors are trying to trick you. And, you know, the authors are talking this transactional language. You know, do I have to compare against this? Or can I argue that we don't have to compare against this because X? You hear this from colleagues, you hear this from students. You know, can I argue that we don't have to compare against X? And, you know, can I omit my limitations section? And this kind of thing. And, you know, the grumpy reviewers feel like, well, wait a second, who is here standing up for the reader? Like, it's just us, and if I accept this paper, then, you know, I'm the only one here who can protect the reader. And I think that drives a lot of grumpy reviewer behavior, is the sense that the authors are only doing it to benefit themselves, you know, because they have to publish at a CCF Rank A conference to achieve some career milestone, or because they have to publish at SIGCOMM to get their PhD. And so I think that leads to a lot of the reviewer behavior that we see, is this belief that if they don't hold the line, that the people that this is all actually intended to benefit the reader are being misserved. And so I think all these things we talk about, you know, sort of author frustrations against reviewers, which, you know, I also have. I mean, I was frustrated with my SIGCOMM reviews this year. I think also come from a place of some somewhat well-meaning frustration that reviewers have against authors and author misbehavior. So I don't think you can just address one side of this equation.
Yeah, and if I can just add, you know, if you look, I mean, you can look at the PC, it's online, not just this year, but other years. And we pick people, not just, you know, random people, but people with high judgment who have been active in the conference and who have been part of the authorship process, who have seen reviews, who have hopefully participated in things like what's the student, well, like sometimes students will do the shadow PC, excuse me, the shadow PCs, and those are training opportunities, and the reviewers are the authors. And so unlike the corporate analogy you described where you're onboarding people who are very unfamiliar with the new environment, ideally these are people who have been involved. And so, I think trying to find people in the community who go to the conference or who participate or who are online or who contribute to the community outside of just publications is very important, because that same behavior carries over to good faith coaching of the authors through good reviews and things like that. And so I do want to defend a little bit the reviewers, because we are the authors and the reviewers are the same subset of people in many ways. And I just sort of feel like, picking people with good judgment who, that is a challenge that cannot be automated, and there's no technical solution to that. It's about finding people who want to raise up kind of work. And to Keith's point, I mean, also, once you accept a paper, it will not change. That's it. It's set in stone. And so, like, you don't want to go through an iterative process forever for no reason with no benefit. That is bad for science. But on the other hand, if if there really is something that the readers and the attendees are going to miss out on that would be really beneficial, then having some kind of a revision or iterative process to do that's important. Otherwise, that work will never actually happen. So that's something I would just say.
Okay, thanks. We have 6 minutes left. I think, Hassan, do you have a quick comment? And then we have Ethan.
Yeah, just quick. Basically, that point about comparing to prior art that's in archive, and that was asked for us in one review, and it apparently, that paper that we were asked to compare against is still not published. So it's a slippery slope. Not this year, by the way, and not SIGCOMM'.
Okay, thanks. Ethan, please.
Yeah, I'm Ethan from Columbia. So George mentioned shadow PCs, and I actually think that shadow PCs, as they're normally run, aren't effective at all at training reviewers. They're effective at showing junior people what the process of a PC is, but having run one for a number of conferences, including NSDI and IMC, the normal Shadows PC process does very little training on how to actually be a good reviewer. It has many of the challenges of being on a PC, like a lot of papers to review by a given deadline and not very much time to discuss them and so on. But I actually think that these sort of corporate onboarding processes are much more effective at training people to be good reviewers. On my homepage, I have a seminar I've taught a couple times that has a shadow PC along with supplemental exercises to train students to be good reviewers. And I think that activities like that, activities like these onboarding things like IMC's research task force, where senior people in the community, instead of writing their own reviews, give feedback to the reviewers on improving them and facilitate discussions. I think those are much more effective ways of training good reviewers. And I think that a challenge that we've been facing recently is, as we expand the community, expand the program, and as we try to lower review load, we have much larger PCs, each person doing fewer reviews, and I think it's a lot harder in that model to learn how to be a good reviewer, to get consistent decisions across the BC and so on. So I'd really encourage us to think about ways to train junior people to be good reviewers.
So, at some point here, hi, it's Dina up here. So somebody asked me to do an outrageous opinion, and this conversation is making me think systems, no? Nobody's doing a good job when they are overloaded. Nobody. Even if I have gone through years and years of training, if you ask me to review 28 papers in 2 weeks, I will do a really poor job, okay? Time is finite. How do we deal with congestion in systems? We throttle at the source. So have we considered something of that nature? I'll drop it at that and I'll leave it at Tanya, but something may be worth considering.
And you are?
I'm Anja Feldman.
No, Dina is gone already. Okay. Okay, and yeah, go ahead. Guys, we have 2 minutes, okay?
From Max Planck Institute for Informatics. On the Shadow TPC, when I was running it, I was reading every single Shadow TPC review, and I was correcting and reviewing the review and improving it. And I think we actually got a lot of really good reviewers out of that process. So I actually think that doing shadow TPCs with the right kind of attitude is really, really important. Now, on the other hand, I also agree with that we may have to limit the number of papers being submittable. I think authors shouldn't submit more than 18 papers or 30 papers at some conferences, because I think this just cannot be true with the ACM regulations for being authors on a paper. I find it even hard to imagine reading 30 papers, giving feedback on it before a submission deadline, unless I have about a month of time or 2 months or a whole year. Somehow this doesn't seem right. We may also have to think about, do we really want to have that many experience papers, or are we looking for ideas? And what is the bar for these kinds of papers? And one thing I found kind of a little bit afraid is that we had so many more experience papers, or that the acceptance rate of experience papers was significantly higher than for research papers. Maybe we have to change that again and also have to have some kind of a limit there. Anyhow, just a couple of thoughts.
Thank you, Anya. So you want to have a quick response from the panel, and then we have to conclude. We're good? Okay. So everyone, thank you very much. Thanks to the panelists. I have taken some notes, and of course you have people from the TSC. Can you raise your hand, people from the TSC? Oh, we lost them. So, and I think Jeff was the TSC too. And we will work on your suggestion, okay? You have buses outside, so please go down the stairs. There are buses, volunteers will help you get there, but please rush to the bus because we're going for dinner. Thank you very much.